Michael Carter's alarm rang at exactly 5:30 every morning, but most days he was already awake before it sounded. Years of balancing business meetings with the responsibilities of raising his daughter alone had trained his body to wake early. He quietly turned off the alarm, walked into the kitchen of his modest home, and began preparing breakfast. 8-year-old Emma loved pancakes shaped like stars. Even on the busiest mornings, Michael made time to cook them. As the batter sizzled on the pan, he packed her lunch, tucked a handwritten note inside her lunchbox, and smiled as he wrote the same sentence he had written hundreds of times. "No matter how busy life gets, I'll always be your biggest fan. Love, Dad." 5 years earlier, Michael's life had looked completely different. His wife, Rachel, had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. They fought together through surgeries, treatments, and endless hospital visits, never losing hope. But despite every effort, Rachel passed away, leaving Michael to raise their little girl alone. Standing beside her hospital bed during her final hours, he had made a promise. "I'll make sure Emma grows up surrounded by love. I'll never let success become more important than family." He never forgot those words. Most people who met Michael had no idea he controlled one of the country's most respected private investment firms. His company quietly invested billions into promising businesses, helping small startups become international corporations. Unlike many wealthy investors, Michael disliked attention. He rarely appeared in magazines. He refused expensive interviews. He drove an ordinary grey sedan instead of a luxury sports car. His suits were well-tailored but simple. He believed respect should be earned through character rather than appearance. Inside his company, every employee, from receptionists to senior executives, was treated exactly the same. Whenever new managers joined the firm, Michael reminded them of one important rule. The way you treat the person who cannot benefit your career reveals who you really are. Those words became the company's culture. On the morning everything changed, Michael had an important meeting scheduled with Novatech, one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country. Its new CEO, Olivia Bennett, had requested a $200 million investment to fund global expansion. For months, analysts had studied the company. Financial reports looked promising. The technology showed enormous potential. If the meeting went well, Michael expected to approve one of the largest investments of the year. After dropping Emma at school, Michael began driving toward Novatech's headquarters. The roads were unusually crowded because of heavy rain. Traffic moved painfully slowly. As he waited at a busy intersection, he noticed an elderly man standing beside a disabled vehicle with its hood open. Most drivers ignored him. Michael pulled over without hesitation. "Need a hand?" he asked. The elderly man looked relieved. "My phone died, and nobody has stopped." Michael helped push the vehicle safely onto the shoulder before calling roadside assistance. The entire delay lasted barely 15 minutes. As he returned to his car, another driver accidentally splashed muddy water across his trousers. Moments later, while grabbing a cup of coffee at a service station, someone bumped into him. Coffee spilled across the sleeve of his navy blue suit. The cashier apologized repeatedly. Michael simply smiled. "It's all right. Accidents happen." He dabbed the stain with a napkin, but a faint mark remained. Checking the time, he realized he was already running late. There isn't time to change. He drove directly to Novatech. The company's headquarters reflected its remarkable success. A towering glass building stretched into the skyline. Employees hurried through elegant marble corridors carrying laptops and presentation folders. Digital displays showcased the company's newest innovations. The receptionist smiled politely. "You must be here for the investment meeting." "I am." She handed him a visitor badge. "The boardroom is on the 25th floor." Michael thanked her and stepped into the elevator. Inside, several employees glanced briefly at his stained sleeve before looking away. He hardly noticed. To him, clothing had never defined a person's worth. Meanwhile, inside the executive boardroom, Olivia Bennett confidently reviewed the final presentation with her leadership team. At just 38 years old, she had already earned a reputation as one of the country's brightest business leaders. Her intelligence was undeniable. Her ambition was limitless. But success had slowly changed her perspective. Without realizing it, she had begun judging people by first impressions. The board chairman looked at his watch. "Our investors should arrive any minute." Olivia nodded. "This funding will change everything." The doors opened. Michael entered quietly with a folder under his arm. Several executives glanced toward him. His ordinary appearance immediately drew silent assumptions. One whispered to another. Probably one of the junior advisors. Another noticed the coffee stain. "Looks like someone had a rough morning." Olivia barely looked up from her tablet. The chairman stood. "Everyone, let's begin." Michael walked toward the table and politely extended his hand. "Good morning. I'm Michael." Olivia looked at his hand. Then at his stained sleeve. Instead of shaking it, she offered only a brief nod before turning back toward another executive. "I'm sure introductions can wait." A few people around the table exchanged amused smiles. Someone quietly chuckled. Michael slowly lowered his hand. His expression never changed. There was no anger. No embarrassment. Only quiet observation. He calmly took an empty seat near the end of the conference table. Without saying another word, he opened his notebook and waited for the meeting to begin, while no one in the room realized that the simply dressed single father sitting silently before them was the very man whose decision would determine the future of their entire company. The boardroom settled into silence as the presentation began. A massive screen illuminated the wall, displaying colorful charts, projected revenue curves, and bold headlines announcing Novatech's remarkable growth over the past 5 years. Olivia Bennett stepped confidently to the front of the room. She had spent months preparing for this meeting. Every slide had been perfected. Every statistic had been checked repeatedly. Every executive seated around the polished conference table believed this investment was little more than a formality. "Ladies and gentlemen," Olivia began with confidence, "Novatech stands at the edge of becoming a global technology leader. With a strategic investment of $200 million, we will expand into 12 new international markets, create thousands of jobs, and double our annual revenue within 3 years." The executives nodded proudly. Several investors smiled with approval. Michael listened quietly from the far end of the table. He took very few notes. Instead, he watched the people. He noticed